today's meeting. Please be aware that the Council is video recording this meeting and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I would just like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. If councillors have any concerns about hearing or seeing others in the meeting, please let myself or the council officer know straight away. The fire exits are clearly marked, with 2 in this room being the closest. The assembly point is the flat grass area by the patio. Please remain seated unless you're invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. The toilet facilities are out in the corridor. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with the key points as follows. When public participation agenda item is introduced, please raise your hand to show you wish to speak and I will invite you to speak. If you are comfortable standing, please do so to ensure that you can be heard across the room. Public participation is limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person and must be relating to an item of business on the agenda. You do not need to state your name when you start speaking if you do not wish to, but you are asked to clearly state which agenda item you are speaking about. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item to limit distractions for other participants. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order and I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Can I also ensure that all mobile phones or tablets are either turned off or put to silent, please? Thank you for listening, and on behalf of the Council, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this Town Council meeting. So moving on to the agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair. Good evening, everybody. Yes, we do have some apologies. Councillor Rutland has work commitments. Councillor Everton has another external commitment. Councillor Lord is on holiday. Councillor Warraven is not well enough to attend. Councillor Adeniji, commitments at LDC. Councillor Meek, his professional commitments. Councillor Cash is unwell. And Councillor Olivia Honeyman has a personal commitment. And Councillor Ali Hayder is unwell. Thank you.
Agenda item 2, disclosure of interests. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interest and interest other than pecuniary interest as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. No? Thank you. Public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. Any members of the public that wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do you want me to speak now or?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors. Thank you very much for letting me speak. Thank you very much. First of all, in relation to a colleague of mine, Bob Downing, I do second his perspective on what he's going to say in relation to item 9, 2.3c. I would just like to briefly outline that I'm a member of the amorphous, loosely connected group Crouch Concerns in relation to opposing STFC and the fence. So in relation to the diligent work responses, as at 9.2.3c, I wish this meeting to note that the overwhelming opposition and inquiries that the STC officers were asked to make were as a result and brought on, I would contend, by the council and its failure to properly consult with the community in the first place. And in relation to Section 123 of the Local Government Act, and in relation to your own communication strategy, which came in shortly after. In relation to the diligent stuff, there are some outstanding FOIs that we have. Jeff Johnson, I've asked who owns the railings. Jeff Johnson, who owns the aluminium infills of the fence. To Tony Jackson, do you know if there is sound on the CCTV system in the crouch? And to Mr. Chugg, I thank him for his this afternoon's responses to the FOIs, but as a result of the issue of Barwell solicitors and who they act for, it is still unclear to me whether or not there was a conflict of interest that Barwell solicitors acted for both. And the reason I say that is that I have had confirmation this afternoon from Mr. Chugg that Barwell solicitors did act for Seaford Town Council. Interestingly, I have documentary evidence that in 2014, Barwell's were STFC solicitors. So all I would ask for is a simple response. Did Barwell's act for STC and STFC or STFC Limited, or did STFC have separate solicitors? The answer to that question would be appreciated. Thank you again to Mr. Chugg for this afternoon, although I haven't entirely focused on the detail of what he's written in relation to the financial issues. He has responded to issues in relation to how many, in relation to the use of the pitch and other financial matters. So thank you for that. Mr. Chugg has not responded to a FOI in relation to which lease was in place.
I need to bring you to a close now.
Okay. Which lease was in place at the time the application was brought to the Football Foundation for the 12,800? What was the date of the application? What date did the application was actually sent to the Football Foundation? And which STC officers involved in the application were actually involved in the application or the joint application? Because that is critical to what I'm looking at. And also,
Sorry, I need you
which
to
councillors authorised the 5k grant? I'm finishing.
Sir,
Who approved the 5k
please,
grant
I
on the
need to
clubhouse
ask you
roof
to
repairs?
finish now.
Okay.
You had your 4 minutes.
Okay, but I'll go.
Thank you, madam. You wanted to say something?
Hello, I'm Linda Barber, and I'm also associated with Council Concerns. And I've got 3 questions, which have got sort of many questions in the middle. And they're regarding agenda item 13, provision of new football facilities, the Newland School Development S106 agreement. In section 2.1 of the report, the assistant town clerk states that Lewes District Council are unable to register the application to vary the terms of the agreement, as the town council was not party to the S106 agreement. Yet in section 3 he states that further discussions have taken place with Lewes District Council, who have given assurances that they wish the contribution to be spent in Seaford, and that town council officers are confident to continue those discussions with various interested parties to find a site and devise a suitable scheme to utilise those monies. Can the assistant town clerk please clarify whether this means that the timescales in the agreement and in particular timescale for using the money to upgrade an existing site in Seaford will be brought forward. Who the various interested parties will be in those discussions, or have been. So that's the first question. If the new football pitch facility is to be installed on an existing recreation site in Seaford, how will Seaford Town Council ensure the needs of existing user groups are adequately catered for? All of our urban green spaces feature in the Seaford neighbourhood plan and are designated local green spaces. According to what criteria will the needs of existing stakeholders be assessed, and how will the site be equitably developed and managed to ensure that users are not disadvantaged by the installation of a new football facility? Final, third question. As a town, we are considering several key matters in relation to our public green shared spaces. We have a process in motion for applying to Fields in Trust for enhanced protection to at least 3 sites. We have the prospect of the investment of the S106 monies, as well as the community engagement survey which is currently running. I appeal to the elected members to join these interrelated issues together so they may inform each other to be considered holistically. This, I believe, will allow us to reach the best and most robust long-term strategy for utilising and managing our local green spaces for the dynamic population of Seaford. So, if anyone would like a copy of this, I can let you have them. That's it from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm afraid I'm back on crash concerns as well. Agenda item 9, paragraph 2.3, other work C. It's obviously the town clerk and his staff have been very busy, but I'm afraid I disagree with the account provided in that paragraph, which is not quite right, I don't think. Somewhere along the line, any evidence that there might once have been that LDC did indeed appropriate the eastern part of Crouch Gardens to the playing of soccer, to granting the football club primary use of the pitch, permitting a railing and hard standing, and most particularly, permission to exclude the public. That did not reach Seaford Town Council in 2005 with the transfer of the title from Lewis. No copy of this is held by Lewis. They say they wouldn't because it no longer concerns them. There's no copy held with the Town Council, and there's therefore no evidence that that actually is enforceable or exists as an agreement, as appropriation. Without this evidence, upon which much of the council's management of the Crouch, or this particular field, there's currently no basis for the club to be given any permission to lock anybody out at any time. It's not there. Provide the evidence, we might accept. We're not only awaiting a revised proposal from the club, as suggested, we're awaiting the club's application for planning permission to erect the fixed advertising which is already there around the ground. The council has admitted that it permitted or accepted this without due process, despite it being very clearly inappropriate to a public recreation ground rather than a private ground. These sort of things do not occur normally all the way around public recreation grounds.
Yes. I'll take them in the order that you spoke, if that's okay. I'm very grateful to Mr. Goff for his contribution. I think to be clear about this, we've had more than 70 emails from Mr. Goff in the last 6 or so weeks on these different matters, and we have been diligently responding to all of them as quickly as we can. We have answered nearly all of these emails, but he is quite right, there are still a few which are outstanding, which we are answering as soon as we can, and we obviously will respond to all of the questions that we ask as soon as we're able to. But at the moment, we would ask, if we estimate, 60, 70, maybe 80 hours of officer time has already been spent on the queries that we've received. And we're a small team. We're working as quickly and diligently as we can on all those matters to answer all those questions as soon as we are able to. And I think really it would be best to continue to deal with those questions in the way that we're doing so, and we can provide answers to all of the points that Mr. Goff has raised this evening. With regard to the 3 questions that were asked around the arrangements in regards to section 106, I think that really what we would say is going forward, we will of course be mindful of our neighbourhood plan in how any decisions are made or any matters are considered going forward. Our Planning and Highways Committee is always mindful of the neighbourhood plan in any matters that it considers, and this would be no different. I think that we will be very careful to make sure that the most appropriate solutions possible are found, and really where we're at with that is really around, as the report says really, we recognise that that the original section 106 agreement presents some challenge because Seaford Town Council are not signatories to that agreement. That's a situation that we've inherited, and there's nothing that's the case. That is the case. We're not signatories to that. We weren't signatories to that agreement when it was made, and therefore we're not in a position to cause a written change to the agreement to be made. But what the report is describing is that therefore the section 106 as it was written creates risks around the money not being spent within Seaford. And the actions that are being taken, and what this report is describing in the previous reports as well, is the work we're doing to do all we can to minimise that risk and do all we can to work with the parties and stakeholders to maximise the chances of the funds being spent within Seaford. We can only start from the position we're starting from. We can't start from anywhere else. But we're working very hard to do what we can, and that's what those discussions with Lewis that are referred to in the report are about really, is to try and help everybody to understand that we're trying to work in a sensible way to enable those funds to be used in Seaford in the spirit of the agreement around football and sporting facilities, while being mindful, as has been identified in the 3 questions, that of course within the town there may be a restriction upon possible sites. We'll be making, I think also picking up on the 3rd question, we are doing our community engagement survey at the moment, and again I'll explain a bit more about that later in the meeting, that basically this is on the path towards the council coming up with a new strategic plan, agreeing a new strategic plan in 2023. So that will give councillors the opportunity that you were describing within your questions. It will be really for councillors to see, listening to the feedback they're getting through the community engagement survey, what strategic decisions do they want to make, what strategic priorities does the council want to set. So that provides them with an opportunity to do that. And then finally, moving on to the 3rd set of questions, I think that we're very clear that the advertising is really a matter for Lewis District, and of course we will abide by any decision that Lewis District makes on the matter. But we haven't felt it's appropriate or necessary for the adverts to be removed in the meantime while Lewis District are processing the application for them. We will await Lewis District's decision on that matter, and we will abide by whatever decision that they come to on that in that case. so far? Do you think are there any points that additional points to address? This kind of
No,
thing?
I think that's covered.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Sorry, see.
May I respond to?
No, you can't.
I can't.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, okay.
So, did you wish to speak on anything?
I'm purely interested in the Newlands money because I'm involved with the schools.
Okay, right, thank you. So, moving on to agenda item 4, minutes. So the following minutes, approving or not approving the recommendations as required. So 4.1, full council on the 13th of October. So have a proposer for that. Councillor Reid and Councillor Brown, thank you. And all in favour of accepting those minutes. Thank you. 4.2, Appeals Committee. Obviously the minutes were circulated by email to councillors. We still need to have a second, yeah. So I'll propose those. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Payne, thank you. And all agreed on those. Thank you. I'll take 4.3 and 4.4 together. Planning and highways for the 20th of October and 3rd of November.
Sorry, Chair, the 3rd of November we haven't actually distributed the 5 minutes yet, so we're just going to do the 20th of October.
So just the 20th of October for planning and highways. So as Vice Chair of that committee, I propose that we accept those minutes. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Edson, thank you very much. And all those in favour? Thank you very much. Obviously, the Climate Change Subcommittee met and our recommendations will be going to the parent committee of the Community Services to their next meeting. So, agenda item 5, civic update reports. So you have the civic update reports from both the Mayor and myself. Are there any questions on that? No, so just to note the contents of the report, so I'll propose that we note those. That's the Payne seconding. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Obviously we haven't got the young mayor with us this evening. Do we have anything verbally?
No.
on that?
No, she updated it at the last meeting, so I'm sure she will.
Moving on to agenda item 6, Town Council Working Group Reports.
None for this meeting, thank you, Chair.
This meeting. Agenda item 7, Outside Body Representative Reports. Does anyone wish to? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. The steering group of Plastic Free Seaford have asked me to make something clear that I began to say at the last meeting. And it's about the Claire Sumner Memorial, or a celebration of her life. There are two things going on that I think that I managed to confuse last time. The legacy for Claire Sumner is the work on the plastic-free policy, plastic-free champions, the plastic-free identity for the town. And the memorial, or the celebration, is to be something that's different. So, following discussions amongst the various of her friends, colleagues, whatever, the proposal they wish to put is that there would be an interactive, functional, educative sculpture, that may involve a bench, with a mermaid theme, because Claire was a sea swimmer, very associated with the concept of mermaids. And this is to celebrate the work of Claire Sumners and to inspire all who visit our seafront to continue the plastic-free identity that's here. What the steering group are asking is that on one side or other of Frankie's on the seafront, there are two large spaces that don't have benches in. And they would like to negotiate with the town council to be permitted to have a bench, this commemorative sculpture in one of those two spaces where there are few benches at the moment. There is some design work going on by Skip in terms of the concept and the design. And the intention is this sculpture itself should not be at a cost to the town council. So there would be crowdfunding, there would be grant applications, there would be events. So basically what they're looking for is permission to cite that commemorative, it's difficult to call it bench sculpture. The commemoration theme in one of those two places, after discussion with the town council about the concept of the design and the permission to place it on, and the preference is one of those 2 points, because Clare was closely associated with the seafront, with beach cleans, with not just the beach cleans, but her work for the environment as part of Surface Against Sewage. So they wanted to be on the seafront, and those 2 places seem to be the appropriate ones. So I've just put that from the steering group of Plastic Free Seaford to council to say what they're working up designs, they will raise the funds, and they would just like permission to place it in one of those 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone
Oh,
else?
sorry, actually, one thing I've got to say, they will also be pleased for Fran from Plastic Free Seaford to contribute to the the revision, the upgrading of the town council's plastic free policy, and that's the legacy part, separate from the memorial part. Now I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I eventually managed to attend the Lewis District Association of Local Councils AGM. We had a great difficulty of getting onto their Zoom meeting, not only myself but other delegates as well. It's a pretty ordinary meeting, nothing really happened. The election of officers, really nothing to report on that. On the Seaford Golf Club, Seaford Head Golf Club committee meeting, they're meeting this evening, so obviously I'm not there.
Thank you. Anybody else? No. So we move on to agenda item 8, District and County Councillor update reports. With the District Council, the Policy and Performance Advisory Committee met with Southern Water and grilled them last week. They have agreed that the Policy and Performance Advisory Committee will set up a small petition task group which will meet with the Southern Water quarterly, but we're also going to start involving other stakeholders, so town, parish councils, where discharges have been happening, with highways and other organisations that actually can start to benefit and try and make some positive changes to that. Also, the Boundary Commission changes, the final consultation is now out, so people can make their comments on whether they want the changes. That's running until December, and then the finalised version will be put to Parliament later on. That's all I have to say on that. Does anyone else have anything? No? Move on to agenda item 9, Town Clerk's update report.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's only been a month since our last meeting, so again, as usual with these reports, I've done my best to provide a clear summary for Council to see how the main streams of work across the Council's work streams are progressing, and there are updates against all of the key items on the Council's agenda at the moment within the report. And I'll be very happy to take any questions or feedback from councillors as part of this item on any of those items. But I just wanted to provide some further updates to some of these matters now for tonight's meeting, because obviously things move quickly at Seaford Town Council. Basically, I talked about warmth banks within the report, and just to say that we have now got information about warmth banks within the town up on our website and also going out through social media as well. And we've also been sharing with the groups who are offering warmth banks information about funding opportunities, both from the East Lewis District Council and also from the Sussex Community Foundation, if they wish to try and take advantage of that funding. So we're doing all we can to support warmth banks and also get the information out about warmth banks in the town as part of our response to the cost of living crisis. Also within recent days, councillors will have seen that the pay settlement for this financial year has been agreed, and as you will have seen from the information that's been shared with you, it's not a percentage increase across the board for all workers, but instead it's a £1 increase for all workers, effectively giving a greater percentage increase to lower paid workers and a lower percentage increase to higher paid workers, because it's the same amount of money. Councillors will again, as we go through the budget and FNGP, we'll give more detailed information to councillors both about this year and next year, although we have the funds for this year's settlement. But just so councillors know, the numbers have been crunched in terms of Seaford Town Council and that approach to pay increases. And the overall effect to our salary budget is to increase it by 7.4%. So that might be helpful to have in your minds in terms of what that settlement actually means for the Town Council. We've carried on doing other work around responding to cost of living crisis we talked about at the last meeting and mentioned in my report, and I'm grateful to my CNT colleagues. We've come out with a list of steps to take to help to respond to cost of living crisis in the council, and we'll be bringing that forward to councillors at a future meeting, so we're taking that work forward. And fourthly, as was alluded to in the public participation part of this meeting, our engagement survey went out a week ago, and we've already had more than 140 replies. So that's a brilliant start in terms of the level of engagement that we want to get from this. And basically, for me, one of the beauties of this survey is that it's quite short, and that's deliberate because that encourages participation. It's, you know, there's people with nothing worse for someone go on to town council, maybe I see they've got to do 20 pages of stuff that will take them hours. Boom, move on. So we've tried to hone it down to key things that will help to inform our strategic priorities. As I've covered in previous meetings and also with our reports, but to help everybody to be clear, we're doing a 3-stage process towards a new strategic plan as a council. Stage 1 is like resident consultation, and that's the community engagement survey that's gone out already, and we'll continue to promote and publicise it, including making people aware of how to do it non-digitally as well. And we're doing a campaign around that in the weeks ahead, so we maximise take-up. We're running it to the end of January, so there's plenty of time for people to do it. We're doing all we can to maximise participation within it. So that's stage 1, get resident feedback. Stage 2 is then we will be holding a workshop or workshops with stakeholder groups within the town. So groups will be invited to come to that. We'll be holding that one in the new year to get their specific input upon priorities for the town. And then what will happen then when we have a new council in May is all of the feedback from residents and from the stakeholder groups will then be used to inform councillors as they then consider the new strategic priorities for the town, hoping to have those agreed in the summer of 2023. So that's a step-by-step comprehensive approach to developing the strategic plan. Finally, just to say, to be clear, that therefore for the period in between, that's why on our website is a 1-year action plan for the council for 22-23 to show us basically what we're doing in the road between the old plan and our new plan, which will be agreed in summer 23. I just want to take the opportunity to be as clear as I could be about the engagement process, but also say the engagement survey is out there, so please encourage people, you know, tell your friends, tell your neighbours, get them to fill it in. We really want to hear from the residents about what they think the priorities are for the town. Thank you all. Happy to take any questions or feedback from councillors. Thank you, Chair.
Question, Councillor Honeyman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Do you want me to stand here? Just what TC was saying on the last item, are there clues for the public to know where they're coming from, or are they expected to start from scratch? That's basically where else they're coming from. And also, is there any link to the neighbourhood plan? Because the neighbourhood plan looked a little bit like this when that was first launched, way back in 2014? No, 16, wasn't it? 2016. And again, consultation, what the public expected out of Seaford and so on. I know there's overlapping together, works with other councils. So what I was trying to say is obviously sometimes residents will be broader than what the town council does. So I just wanted to know just a little bit more insight about what you're expecting. Thank you.
I will try to make it as open and straightforward as possible, Councillor Honeyman. I mean, I think that, you're right, but a neighbourhood plan is a particular type of plan looking at particular things, and this is more general than that, more everything than that, if that makes sense. As you can see from the question and survey, we really want to hear from residents what they feel is most important for the town, what's best about it, what they like least about it, what would they like to see happen. We've given a list of, we've given, for example, people a list of things to choose from, choosing 3 from quite a long list if they want to, but also given a box if they don't see what they want on that list, they can add something themselves. So we're trying to make this as inclusive as possible by trying to be something that people feel they can respond to, and they don't have to look at 4,000 things before they feel that they can put it in. But I take your point about neighbourhood plan, but I say we're mindful about what that was for, and then this is for the council to set priorities for work across the town that could be covering any issue potentially.
Councillor Dunn.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Yeah, regarding, 2.3C, I know it's already been covered regarding Seaford Town Football Club. Anything they want to do regarding the fence that we put as a proposal, perhaps I understand will come back to us at full council. Have we got any idea when they're going to be bringing forward a proposal? Would it be this side of Christmas, or are we looking at next year, or?
To be honest, I honestly don't know.
I don't know, there's no time.
There's no time that indicates that.
Oh, right, okay, thank you.
Councillor Reid.
Just a comment on Warren Banks. I think what's been encouraging across the town are the number of places that have now offered to open. I think we have 10, possibly 11 Warren Banks or Warren places opening. And coverage now from the St Thomas More Church at one side of Seaford, I think as of this week, Bishopstone Station Community Hub, so right across the town, and then a good spread within the town as well. Some are, quite a lot of them, I think, or in fact most of them are in churches, some are in the libraries and community spaces, so it's encouraging. There's been so much interest coming forward, volunteers have come forward, so that the town geographically is covered, and I think there's one more offer we're hoping for a Monday, which means that all days are covered. And also to reinforce what the clerk said, that the grant process from Lewis for the cost of these events is very simple to run and very quick to have decisions on. I think this praise the town council officers for getting the information posted so quickly, and also the voluntary groups of the churches across the town for getting this organised so quickly. Surprisingly, it's not got very cold yet, but it's good to have all. I think all of the groups have got some people attending already, so it's good to have this in place before it gets to be really cold. And clearly, the crisis in terms of people's food poverty and energy policy that is bound to be coming to us this winter, it's good we're in place before that's done. So I'd like to commend the town for this response so soon.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. So, recommendation is to note the contents of the reports. Councillor Brown proposing. Have a seconder for that, please. Councillor Payne, thank you. And all those in favour? Thank you very much. Moving to agenda item 10. Conclusion of the annual governance and accountability return, AGAR 2021-2022.
Thank you, Chair. Lucy's unable to attend this evening, so I'm afraid, Councillor, you've got me again, if you don't mind. I think it's important that councillors are kept up to date on the AGAR process, see exactly what it is, but I think the report does speak for itself, which is basically our auditors are reporting back to us that they have begun the process, but they haven't finished it yet, and we hope to have it ready soon. But again, I think the details needed for councillors for this item are within the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I think this shows that the auditors are doing their job properly. If you see some further information, they're unable to complete the report at this time, but we know it'll be forthcoming very soon.
Any other comments on that? No. So, recommendation is to note the report. Proposer for that? Councillor Edson and Councillor Payne seconded. Thank you. And all those in favour? Thank you very much. Agenda item 11, Town Council Standard Christmas Closure Arrangements.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. As you can see within the report, there's been custom and practice for many years about the arrangements for Christmas in relation to the office and relation to the staff. And as this report describes, council are basically being asked to confirm that's the case, but as it's gone on for so many years now, to actually consolidate into a kind of normalised arrangement rather than considering it each year. And just to say, just also by way of information, that if we find that any staff would then end up lone working on the 3 working days between Christmas and New Year because they choose to work, then we do have a lone worker procedure that staff refer to and would follow in those cases, as with any other lone working within our council, within those arrangements. The procedure in a nutshell requires you to tell somebody where you're going to be and when you're going to be there, and tell them when you're not there anymore, so that health and safety is maintained. And we would expect staff, and staff would, as they would normally do on other times, to follow that procedure, and I think that gives us sufficient that manages risk sufficiently for us to be happy to have this office closure with some flexibility arrangements for the staff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Brown?
I think it makes a lot of sense to standardise these arrangements now. And they've been the same for the last 10 years, so what's different, you know, so let's accept it.
Councillor Hanlon?
Correct me if I'm wrong, I know before the pandemic you basically get an extension, so it was quite a long week before Christmas and one of them, so I still think you need to almost do a shortened that report just to confirm it's what dates you are actually going to confirm to extend to the writing. I know once there was about it, you gave extra days on say before Christmas in addition to opening up after the New Year, so there could be some exceptions, that's all I was trying to say. But I know this year it will be Friday the 23rd to be open on Tuesday the 3rd.
Yes, that's right.
So,
That's right.
but I just don't know if it's worth some sort of including some, even if you wouldn't want a big report like that, obviously, but a bit more just a confirmation report.
Yeah, I think that obviously different Christmas falls on different days, and that can have some impact. But where the customer practice with the council is that there are whichever day Christmas is, there are always 3 working days between Christmas Day and the beginning of January. Doesn't matter what day Christmas is, there will always be 3 working days. We have 7 days in the week, you've got 2 bank holidays, a week, 2 days for a weekend, 3 working days, that's your 7 days. So that will always be, so the 3 days we're referring to will always be those 3 working days between Christmas Day and the beginning of January. The customer practice is that Christmas Eve is a working day, while understanding that obviously, you know, as an employer we're reasonably flexible about that with staff. But of course, sometimes, as with this year, if Christmas Eve is on a weekend, then the working day, the last working day will be the last working day before Christmas, if that makes sense. So I don't think that's changing anything to be able to do that, if that makes sense. But that would be the normal customer practice. We may have had exceptional arrangements for COVID, but obviously, touch wood, we're back to much more normal times now, so this is the arrangement we're going to take forward. I hope that helps to clarify.
Thank you. I think finishing the working day, the last working day, and then going back on the first working day, if arrangements they want to extend that for any period, any year, then they'll come back with us with a paper asking for an additional extension.
Yeah, that's fine.
But this, I think, is the last working day, going back on the first working day. I'm happy. So, any other comments? No. So, recommendation is to adopt the standard Christmas closure arrangements as per report 114/22 that will be applied annually. Can I have a proposer for that? Councillor Honeyman, Councillor Brown seconding. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Move on to agenda item 12, Martello Fields renaming update.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, Jeff's under the weather, so it's me again. Again, councillors will be aware of the work that was underway to celebrate and rename the Martello Fields in the light of the Jubilee. But of course, since then, as this report explains, as we all know, very sadly, our late Queen passed away in September, and therefore the proposal for officers is to migrate that project into a memorial project and still proceed with calling the Martello Fields the Queen Elizabeth Fields. Now, you'll be aware that there are 3 Martello Fields, so there will be 3 Queen Elizabeth Fields, exactly as there are 3 Martello Fields, if that makes sense. And I'm sure, and I think as officers we want to think of a sensible way of naming the 3 fields as all Queen Elizabeth Fields, if that makes sense. And we'll make sure that we do that. The public consultation might help to inform that, in fact. Obviously, the current situation, which I find quite gives me pleasure, is that there's a west field, an east field, and a pump field. And when I came to Seaford, I had to work out that the east field's in the middle and not on the end, because the pump field's on the end, if you see what I mean. So the west field's on the western end, and the east field's in the middle. And that's the current arrangement, if you like. So obviously then there might be sub-names to the fields, and again we'll probably use the process described in the end to come up with sensible sub-names for each individual field, so we can book one out rather than all 3 of them, but we want to call them all Queen Elizabeth Fields. The details of the process within the report, happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
museum, which is a very historical building in its own rights. I like the idea of what we're doing, but is it not going to confuse people? That the fact they've always known it as the Martello Field and it's sort of been pinpointed on the map because that's the museum. I think it's a nice idea, but I don't know how the public, I mean, I know, are we going to go to consultation? I think that's very important. If it comes back with a negative, do we not rename them then? Do we then stop the process?
Well, we're saying we're going to do due public consultation on the renaming, so we'll obviously be mindful of that consultation in terms of what happens in the end.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
It might be like when a pub changes its name, some people will call it by its new name, some people still refer to it as the old name.
Yeah, I know. It's very...
My biggest concern is, obviously we're calling all the fields one thing, but it's when it comes to booking, some people book the East Field or the West Field, some
Yes.
people want both, and then actually are we changing that to one payment for all fields, or
No,
And that- and
well,
that's-
people will still be
that's
able
my
to say we'll
concern.
make sure we have a sensible arrangement for individual fields being identified, and hopefully the public process will help us to identify and confirm that to councils. But yeah, we must make sure we address that.
So just about the history, I understand from the older residents of Seaford, these were originally the bean lands, and that they were kind of cut down over time as other authority took space to build. So we have an older name. I understand they were donated in the time of Queen Elizabeth I. So can we, I'm joking going to suggest Queen Elizabeth I field, Queen Elizabeth II field, and
So what field left, will they?
maybe the third one might take some time on that basis.
Thank you.
any other comments? No. So the recommendations are to agree in principle to the renaming of the Martello Fields as the Queen Elizabeth Fields, and subject to recommendation 1 being agreed and public consultation being undertaken and being favourable, to delegate power to the town clerk in conjunction with the mayor to make an application to the Cabinet Office to authorise the renaming. So can I propose that?
Together. You take them both together.
We'll take them both together. Would you like to propose that? Yep. Any seconder for that? Councillor Reid, thank you. And can I have a proposer for both? Anyone? Yep. Okay. All those in favour?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Those against?
Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. Agenda item 13. Provision of new football facilities, Newlands School Development, S1.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, some of the discussion of this item actually came up during our public participation, so I thank the public for their questions on this matter, and obviously all councillors heard that discussion, and that will help to inform them in terms of consideration of this report. So as the report is saying, we weren't on the original agreement, therefore we can't enact written changes. We're doing our best to help Lewis District Council to understand our position about concerns or risk of loss of funds, therefore to Seaford, and the actions being taken, which is basically seeking to work with Lewis as we can to take actions to reduce this risk by essentially interpreting the section 106 more flexibly than it was originally written, and the stakeholders relevant to the section 106 not objecting to that when it is done. And that's the process that we would be following over the weeks, months and years ahead, as I say, to maximise the chances of those funds still being able to be spent within the town of Seaford. And so the report really sort of seeks to summarise that and tries to try and find this balance between the fact that, of course, it's frustrating that we can't change the agreement, but that hasn't got our process of taking the approach that maximises the chances of funds coming to the town still being followed, and that's what we're still going to be doing. I hope I've done a reasonable job of explaining that. Have to take any questions or feedback from councillors. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions? Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you. Regarding this, especially where we have the 3.2, given the insurance, town council officers are satisfied that we will be able to continue the discussion.
Yes.
Whatever's agreed, can we make sure we do get it in writing rather than just... I know we should rely on people's words, but I think we need something more substantial.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we'll be trying to find the best ways of enabling the process to be visible to people in terms of what's happening. Because
More like
that's
transparent,
obviously
yes.
necessary transparency, and certainly to make sure that councillors are alive to or warned of if anything starts to look like it may, may be some challenges or not, if that makes sense. So we're trying to, I suppose, take that sensible approach to it, where we think it is sensible to see what the best solution within Seaford under the Section 106 can be,
Yeah.
and what we'll be doing. If councillors are happy with that approach, then in the months ahead, then we will work to basically enable interested parties to come forward with any potential proposals for the council to consider if they wish to use the Section 106 monies for those purposes. At the point we're doing that, we will obviously be saying to the Lewis District, look, this is what we're doing, and it will be up to them at that point to object or allow.
Yes.
So that's the best we can get out of the process. So it's not risk-free, but it stands a better chance than the original agreement.
Yeah. But can I just ask, sorry, Chair, why were we not party to the agreement in the first instance, considering it was money for us in Good Student Newlands? Is there a history to this?
I'm probably not the best person to ask, Councillor, because this is before me, I'm
Before
afraid.
your time. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll just
That was solely caused by planning, not by us. It's the rule, isn't it, that they have the authority, we don't. So that's the reason why we are where we are.
Yeah, I'm concerned with this because legally, even if you have it in writing that, oh yes, it can be used in the town, legally, another town could say, well no, actually...
Yeah, because it says on the coastal belt, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
and another town could apply for that money
Yeah.
before we can use it to upgrade and things, and we haven't got the land to use it to put new facilities in.
Yeah.
So there is that group, and just because an officer says, oh yeah, that'd be fine, if officers suddenly move or they could
Or
suddenly
leave, yeah.
leave, but legally another town could go, well no, actually it says, and we haven't got a leg to stand on that because that is a legally binding document, that is 106.
Well, 106 is legislation, so you can't alter one. You can't alter legislation.
So
Yeah.
I'm really concerned that we could lose the money
Right.
from the town. So,
I think that's fully recognised, Chair. That's why we're doing what we can, but we can't give guarantees where the guarantees can't be given. But we're doing what we can to say minimise the risk, maximise the chances of the funds being able to use within the town is the process that we're following. But let's say because of the content of the original agreement, we can't rule out the risks that have been highlighted.
Councillor Hannon.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I think you clarified one of my points, I think, in the sense of, I suppose we're not planning for any holidays, so in that sense, maybe very basic to the, I suppose, basically, isn't it? Well, the amount 350, when that was negotiated, does it still stay at that, even if it's years down the line, with inflation and other costs, we don't get, it basically just loses its value, or do we get more, like, interest or so on?
As far as I know, it's just that set amount of money because that's what's in. There's no inflationary or interest costs, whether it's used last year or in 3 years' time. It will be that set amount of money.
Okay, thank you.
Any other councillors with any questions? No. Sorry, I can't take any responses.
That wasn't a response to the question.
Right, so the recommendation is to note the report. So have a proposer for that, Councillor Payne, and a seconder. Councillor Argent, thank you, and all those in favour. Thank you very much. So agenda item 14, exclusion of press and public. I will move that in accordance with the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960s, the press and public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion of the next two items of business for the reasons set out below on the agenda. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Payne, thank you, and all those in favour?
Thank you,
Thank you very
Councillors.
much.